All right, well, I think, Zach, if you agree, we'll get started on the presentation.
Yeah, I think so. People are still trickling in, but it's kind of slowed down, so I think we can get started.
Perfect. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the informational webinar of the Western Chorus Frog Long-Term Monitoring Program for the 2022 season. We are so excited to have you guys here. As we've been mentioning, we're so excited for the spring and we're so excited to hear some frogs, and we hope you guys are going to enjoy the program as much as we do. So without further ado, we will get going. So just to start off the presentation, I'm going to go over the schedule of the webinar a little bit. So we are going to have a little bit of a brief introduction where, Zach and I can introduce ourselves. And then we'll go into some background on the Western Chorus Frog program and the Western Chorus Frog itself. And then we'll also go over some preliminary results from 2021. So that should be pretty interesting for our returning volunteers. And then finally, we'll finish off the webinar with an open question period. And we do ask that you guys hold your questions until the end of the presentation when the open question period is open. And we're going to ask that you send your questions to the chat, and Zach will read them out and we'll do our best to answer them. So a little bit of background about me. So my name is Siobhan Galway, and I'm the terrestrial and wetland ecologist at Blazing Star Environmental. And I am actually the project coordinator for the program. I graduated from the University of Waterloo with a bachelor in environmental studies, and I've worked at Blazing Star Environmental for pretty much exactly 4 years now, where I specialize in species at risk conservation and monitoring. And I'll be leading the site selection this year, so I'm sure I'll be in contact with many of you in the next couple weeks. Now I'll pass it over to Zach.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Conn. I'm a wildlife monitoring technician with Blazing Star Environmental. I will be leading the volunteer communication and coordination for the Chorus Frog monitoring program this year, and I'm super excited about it. I think I've probably already been in contact with several of you already. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Queen's University and a Master's in Avian Ecology from the University of Windsor. And before joining Blazing Star, I've previously worked for Credit Valley Conservation, leading their bird and amphibian monitoring programs, as well as spent some time with the Long Point Bird Observatory and Hubbard Brook Experimental Forest, working on various wildlife and ecological monitoring projects. So I'm really, really excited to be working on this project with Siobhan and looking forward to meeting you all and working with you.
We're very excited to have Zach here. He's been an absolutely huge part of the project so far, and he's been doing an amazing job, and we're so excited to have him. So I'm also going to give a little bit of background about Blazing Star Environmental. So it was founded by John Urquhart in January of 2015, and it is a small environmental consulting company. And we specialize in land conservation and species and ecosystem management. However, we are also a little bit different than other consulting companies because we also conduct a lot of scientific research and monitoring. So we do a lot of traditional consulting work, but we also do a lot of conservation work as well. So now to get to the star of the show, the Western Chorus Frog. And just a note before we start off, so we are aware of the various genetic studies that seem to confirm the presence of boreal chorus frog in Ontario rather than Western chorus frog. And we have been in contact with experts in the field and reviewed the most up-to-date genetic data. And these studies have confirmed that the genetics of the species are very complicated and there is no clear answer. So in light of all the new information that is coming out, we are continuing to label the species as Western chorus frog until such a time that the status is legally changed. And what is abundantly clear, however, like regardless of whether the species is boreal chorus frog or Western chorus frog, is that they are declining throughout the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Canadian Shield Range, including Ontario. And much more data is needed on this decline. However, if you guys have any more questions about the genetics of the species, feel free to send us an email and we'll be happy to discuss it with you guys. So the Western chorus frog. As you guys can see, it's a small tree frog that can be about 4 centimeters in body length, and it can be green to gray to brown in color. And it's pretty easily ID'd by a distinctive white stripe on its upper lip, and it also has 3 dark stripes down its back. However, these can be broken into blotches. Now, because this frog is so small, you're much more likely to hear it and ID it based on its call rather than how it looks. And luckily, this frog has a very distinctive breeding call, which sounds like someone taking their fingers and running them down the teeth of a comb. They're also really interesting because they're among the first frogs to emerge from hibernation, and they breed in early spring, and they can be heard calling as early as mid-March. So these frogs also have really, really interesting habitat. They mainly use temporary wetlands or shallow portions of wetlands for breeding. So for example, they'll use flooded fields, marshes, swamps, and drainage ditches. And these habitats usually have plants such as cattails, reed canary grass, dogwood, and speckled alder. However, they'll also have partially submerged trees such as red maple and black willow. The main feature of their habitat, though, is that there are no aquatic predators such as fish. Now, their habitat can be really hard to identify, and it's mostly just due to their temporary nature, which makes their habitat really hard to map, and can be also pretty hard to find. So threats. So like many other species, the western chorus frog do face a number of threats. And their main threats are from habitat loss and fragmentation, such as the conversion of forests and temporary wetlands to agricultural fields and urban expansion. But they also face threats from pollution, such as herbicides and road salts, pathogens, and invasive species. Now, why do we want to study the western chorus frog? Well, first and foremost, the chorus frog is a species at risk. It was listed by Kisiwick in 2008, and it was listed by SARA in 2010. But much more than that, there's just a lot about this species that we just don't really know. For example, the size of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Canadian Shield population, which is this gray area here, the size of this population is unknown. Furthermore, the northern limit of the species range is not well studied, and overall, the Ontario distribution is really not well understood. And this leads to the question, how can we conserve a species if we're not even confident where they occur? And this brings us to our long-term monitoring program. So Blazing Star Environmental partnered with Environment and Climate Change Canada and Trent University to create the program. And we wanted to create a program that would allow the conservation community to quickly detect and respond to range declines of the western chorus frog over time. And it will also aid the Kisiwick status assessments and updates by making sure that there is a new data point to use every time the species is evaluated. And some of our program goals were to create a volunteer-friendly long-term monitoring program, to detect the western chorus frog using a standard method, and to establish the spatial extent of western chorus frogs in Ontario and identify how this changes over time. So why did we choose a volunteer-based citizen science program? That's a really good question. So the total range of the western chorus frog is approximately 170,000 kilometers squared, and the study requires hundreds of sites to be surveyed. Now, while our team is determined and mighty, it is pretty small, and we're just unable to cover the entire region in the short 2 to 3 week window in which the western chorus frog is calling. So that's why we need help from the Ontario community to conduct these volunteer surveys for the third and final season of the program. Now, many of you are probably here because you're interested in the program, and you might be wondering, if I sign up, what am I getting myself into? And that's awesome because we've broken it into 5 easy steps for you. And the important thing to remember is that this is a very volunteer-friendly program, and you can customize the program to fit to you and your needs. So step number 1, you pick your preferred number of sites. You can choose as many or as few sites as you prefer. So in the past, we've had volunteers survey anywhere from 1 to 20 sites. And it's important to remember that even one site is really important to the program. You can even request to survey a specific wetland or site that you have in mind. Step number 2, you pick your preferred travel distance. You can let us know the total number of kilometers you'd like to travel in a day to get to your sites. And you can choose a shorter travel distance if you would like to stay closer to home, or a longer distance if you have access to a vehicle. Step number 3, you wait until the western chorus frogs are calling in your area. So it's really important, and we want to make sure that when you conduct your surveys, the frogs are actually calling in your area. And Blazing Star Environmental will send out email alerts and let you know when the frogs are calling in your area and when you can start conducting your surveys. So you guys don't have to worry about figuring out when the frogs are calling, because we'll let you know. However, the frogs will generally start calling anywhere from early March to mid-April, and they usually call for 2 to 3 weeks, and calling usually wraps up by early June. Step number 4, conduct a 5-minute auditory survey at each of your sites. So surveys can be conducted when the following conditions are met. So condition number 1, the temperature needs to be at least 10 degrees Celsius. And we choose 10 degrees because this is the temperature when we can safely assume that the frogs will be calling if they are present. And sometimes they do call at lower temperatures, but just not consistently enough to conduct the surveys, especially at the beginning and end of the calling season. Condition number 2, there has to be no rain or only light rain. And this is because heavy rain can impede the frogs from calling, and it can also make it a lot harder for you guys to hear them. And condition number 3, the surveys must be conducted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So chorus frogs are one of the few species that actually call consistently during the day and the night. However, conducting surveys during our time frame, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., means that other frogs are actually less likely to drown the calls of the western chorus frog out. So here we have an example of one of our data sheets that is filled out. So you can see some of the information that we collect. So you guys would be recording the date, the start time of your survey, and then pretty simple things like the air temperature, wind speed, whether there's precipitation, the background noise, and of course, which species of frogs are calling. And we do provide training materials for the program, so you guys will have no problem figuring out how to fill out the data sheet, because we will let you guys know. So step number 5, then you just repeat. So each site needs to be surveyed a total of 3 times on 3 separate days in suitable conditions. So the total time commitment should equal to about a 5-minute survey at each site, a few minutes to record your data, plus travel time to and from your sites for a total of 3 times. And we do the rest. So Blazing Star Environmental will assign and send you your sites, and the survey protocol, data sheets, and training materials are also available on our program website. And these materials, such as our Frog ID training quiz, will help you become a Frog ID master in no time. And we will also be hosting 2 training webinars. The content is the same, they just have different time slots, so more people can attend them. And those will also go over our protocols, how to fill in the data sheets, and we'll also have an open question period for those training webinars as well. So we'll also provide support, and we'll answer any questions that you have. When we're out conducting surveys with you guys, Zach and I will have our phones on us, so if we get an email or a text or a call from you guys, we'll actually pull over and send you guys the answer and the support that you need. So now you're probably wondering who can get involved. And the overarching answer of this is basically anyone. Organizations and community groups can get involved, individuals, and the great news is that there is absolutely no pre-requirement or experience necessary to join the program. So budding herpetologists can join, or experts. So again, really it's anyone that's interested in western chorus frog conservation. However, we are particularly interested in gaining volunteers in these orange areas, and this is just because these are areas where we haven't had a lot of volunteers in the past. So we don't have a lot of data in these areas. However, we do still want and need volunteers throughout the entire range. And just a note on COVID-19. So regarding the pandemic, we are monitoring the situation closely, And the good news is that survey locations are generally located in remote areas outside of large urban centers. However, volunteers can choose survey sites closer to their home base if they are unwilling to travel long distances or if they do not have access to a car or public transportation. And a really important aspect of these surveys is that they can be conducted alone or with someone you are isolating with if you need to. So they're a great way to get outside and practice safe social distancing. And we also do provide COVID updates to our volunteers with recommendations on how to participate in the program in a safe, COVID responsible manner. And these recommendations will be based on the COVID restrictions that will be in place during the survey period. And I should also mention that any volunteer can opt out of conducting the surveys at any time, regardless of the reason, if they feel uncomfortable participating in the program. So now for the really exciting stuff, some of our program results so far. So the first and second season were an absolutely amazing success. So in 2020, we had 1,109 surveys conducted, and in 2021, we had 2,343 surveys conducted. In 2020, 563 sites were surveyed, and in 2021, it doubled with 1,130 sites surveyed, which is just absolutely amazing. And now for the really, really exciting stuff, how many times do we detect chorus frogs? So in 2020, chorus frogs were detected 291 times. And in 2021, we detected chorus frogs 506 times throughout the entire range. And I really can't tell you guys just how amazing that data is. However, because this is a citizen science program, our success really is determined by the caring and devoted volunteers that make the program possible. So just a little visual representation of this. Here we have the number of Western chorus frog sites that Blazing Star environmental staff were able to survey in spring of 2021. So it's a pretty good amount, but as you can see, it doesn't really cover a lot of the range. However, when you compare this to the number of sites that volunteers surveyed where Western chorus frog were found, you can see that it absolutely expands the area. The volunteers were able to cover a much larger area and get all that data that we just didn't have before. So over 500 volunteers participated in the program in 2021, and 472 of the 506 Western chorus frog observations were actually by volunteers. And it really just goes to show that this program and all the amazing data that we're collecting, it just would not be possible without you guys. So we really, really, really want to thank you for that. Now, the first 2 years of the program were really successful, but we do have one more year of data collection to go, and we need your guys' help. So if I've done my job correctly, you're all hopping at the opportunity to sign up, which you can do by clicking the sign up link in the chat. And you can click the sign up link on the Blazing Star Environmental Facebook post or website, or you can email info@blazingstar.ca and we'll get the process going for you guys. We are also extremely happy to announce that new for this year, we have launched a program website. And this website will serve as a central hub for volunteers to access program resources, training materials, and there's even a data submission portal. However, in order to access all of this content and materials, we are asking volunteers to create an account on the website after you register for the program. And now the good news is that this process is very simple. So step number 1, you create an account on the website. Step number 2 is that you wait for a Blazing Star environmental staff, so me or Zach, to approve your account. And once it's approved, you can review all the program material. You'll have access to everything that you need. All right, so that pretty much concludes our presentation portion. So I think that we'll open the question period up. So if you guys have a question, feel free to send it to the chat, and Zach will read it out and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you guys have.
Just so everyone knows, I've just sent the links to the program website and the specific link for registration for the program through the website in the chat right now.
No questions so far. I think that's good, Zach. We covered a lot.
Okay, so
Oh, thank you, Danielle.
first question, you said there are 2 more training sessions specific to the calls and filling out the forms. Yes, that's right. So we will be hosting 2 training webinars. They'll basically be the same webinar, so you can choose to attend either one of them. They will be held next Saturday on February 26th at 11 a.m., the same time as today, and then on Tuesday, March 1st at 7 p.m. Mm-hmm. No problem at all. I think, you know what? Actually, I think I may have directly messaged you. Isa, by accident. Hold on one second. I'll get those links up.
No problem. I can answer some of the questions, Zach, while you're posting the links.
Sure.
And so the question is, will the sites assigned be easily accessed? Yeah, so one of the great things about this program, and particularly because it is volunteer-based, we did want the sites to be very easy to access. So all of our sites, the ones that we generate, are roadside sites. So all it means is that you need to find a safe place to pull off on the road, and we recommend that your car be fully pulled off the road, but it generally just means that you can walk right up to the site and then just listen. So you won't need to ask anyone for permission to go on their land to survey. They're all based off of just the roads. Awesome. And I'm seeing the program sign up link and the link to our website in the chat.
I'm back now. Isa, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but you don't need to be sorry. That was my error. So it's so no problem at all. I see Ryan Narain, you've raised your hand. If you want to post your question in the chat, you can go ahead. Okay, I've got a couple questions here. One from Michaela. How do you know when the chorus frogs are supposed to start calling at the sites? Is it generally around the same time every year? Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. It really just depends kind of where you are located in Ontario, with kind of a progression of chorus frogs starting to call earlier in the southwestern portion of the province in Essex region. And then kind of that can be typically around like mid to late March versus the northern extent of their range being more starting to call later in the year. So towards May, early to mid-May. And we will be sending out emails to let volunteers know when chorus frogs are starting to call in their region. It's sort of a progression throughout the season. So, and in addition to that, we're going to be having an interactive sort of map on our website that will show regions of the province that where you can expect chorus frogs to begin calling. So we will do, it'll be our job to sort of let you know that information so that you know when to start conducting your surveys. Siobhan, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job explaining that, Zach. The frogs do generally follow the same pattern, but the timing at which they start calling does change between years, because sometimes you get a really warm spring, sometimes you get a really cold spring. And like Zach mentioned, we will have an interactive map on our website that will show where the frogs are currently calling, so you can log in and check that, or you can wait for the email for us to let you know.
Yes, and I believe the map is located in the volunteer training material section of the website. So the next question, when the calling starts at a site, do we visit 3 times within the 2 to 3 weeks? That's another good question. I would recommend that yes, because once they start calling the chorus frogs, their calling period is relatively short. So we would recommend trying to get those 3 site visits in within that kind of 2 to 3 week time frame to be sure that you're going to hit them when they are actually actively calling. And again, that specifically when that's going to happen, it's going to really depend on when or where you are located. But once you sort of we're able to tell you when they start calling, I would recommend that. But that's a good question. I tried to sign up for an account but did not receive a confirmation. Should I reapply? I would. Or sorry, you can go ahead, Siobhan.
I can answer that one, Zach. Yeah. Just because right now I've been the one who's approving the account. So unfortunately, a confirmation email isn't sent out, but you should know that your account has been created if you have access to all of the volunteer training materials. However, if you're still unsure, we can take your name down, or you can send me an email and I can send you confirmation that your account has been created. But just a good way to know is if the account has been created and approved, you'll have access to the volunteer training material page.
Good question, though, because I think that's something that I'm sure other volunteers have been wondering.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how much time does there need to be between revisiting a site? So within our protocol, we say that a minimum of 24 hours between site visits, I believe.
Yep.
And obviously with that, the conditions for surveying the site need to be appropriate. So if you come back the next day and it's raining, for example, then we would suggest coming back the following day or afterwards. Siobhan, I may pass this question to you. How long has Blazing Star Environmental been active, and what is the vision of the organization?
Great question.
Yeah.
So the company was founded in 2015. So we've been around for a little bit of a while now. And our vision is really just to create an environmentally friendly and sustainable future for all of us. And so that's why, as a consulting company, we take on projects and we try to find the most sustainable way of completing those projects that benefit everyone and that also benefit the environment. But we are also really heavily involved in species at risk conservation and stewardship, because we believe that these all sort of funnel together to create a sustainable environment for us all that we all enjoy living, and where we all have access to, like clean water and ample space outside. So that's generally our general company vision, and I like to think that we accomplish it every day, and we continue to always strive to do better.
Yeah, but that's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Just a comment. I definitely want to check out the map. Yeah, we definitely would love for you to check out the map. I think we're really excited about that feature this year on the website. And our intent is to have it be informative and instructive to help volunteers. So yeah, definitely stay tuned, because we're actually not too far away from the beginning of the calling season, and it can be very dependent on local weather patterns and things like that.
Yeah.
So
it sneaks up on us each year. We come back from the holidays in January, and all of a sudden the frogs are calling. So definitely stay tuned.
Do you have a partnership with Algonquin Park? Free camping? I don't know if that's supposed to be like a happy face or. I'm sorry, Ryan. We don't really have a formal way to hook that up. I don't think, Siobhan.
Unfortunately, no, we don't have a formal partnership with Algonquin Park. I wish, though. Would definitely love to go camping there for free. We do work with a lot of Ontario parks, and we do have volunteers that conduct surveys in there, and we do have parks that conduct surveys themselves. But unfortunately, we don't have any sort of formal partnership with Algonquin Park. But oh my gosh, I wish.
Okay. Do you want to be informed of Western forest frogs heard at wetlands that are not at our designated sites? That's a really good question. So this will be covered a little bit more in the training webinars, but we're gonna, essentially the program has two kinds of survey types. So we have our intentional surveys, which are going to be the sites that Siobhan will be assigning to volunteers that are based on our site selection process, or the wetlands that volunteers can suggest if they have good habitat. But then we also have a different survey type, which is called an incidental survey type. And that's going to be for things like this, where you might incidentally be out surveying or out walking around and hear Western coarse frog. So that's important information for us to know. And in terms of like, getting that data for, monitoring their distribution and things like that. But because it's biased data in terms of like you started surveying the site because you heard coarse frogs, we need to treat it a little bit differently than our intentional surveys from a kind of statistical standpoint. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that we would encourage volunteers to conduct incidental surveys if they hear coarse frogs, but there will be different data sheets for doing that, because it's just a little bit different. So I hope that clarifies. Siobhan, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, so the important thing is that we definitely can still use that data, both for our program, but then incidental data actually does contribute to a lot of other Western coarse frog programs as well. So that data definitely really is important, and we can use it, and we definitely encourage you guys to write down those incidental observations and send it to us. But we do want to stress the importance of revisiting your assigned sites 3 times. So definitely record them, but I would say don't necessarily just go looking for Western coarse frog in new locations unless your assigned sites have like been surveyed for 3 times already, in which case go seek coarse frogs all you want.
Yes. And to add on to that, negative data or sites where you survey and you don't hear coarse frogs are equally as important as sites where you do, just because it's very important to know where coarse frogs are not breeding as well. So just if you go out and you don't hear coarse frogs, don't be discouraged. It's still really, really important for us to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Zach. It will still contribute to Western coarse frog conservation. And usually if I survey a site and I don't hear anything, I have a moment where I'm like, oh, that sucks. I wish I heard a frog. But then I have to like hype myself up. I'm like, yes, still helping out the frogs, even though they're not here at this specific site.
Okay, so the next question is, if you finish your 3 sites and want to do more, can we email you? Siobhan, I would say yes, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. So we're more than happy to assign you more sites if you want. The only thing to keep in mind is once the frogs start calling, Zach and I will be conducting coarse frog surveys as well. So generally, our response time will slow down a little bit just because we are also out in the field. And to assign sites, I do have to be at my computer. So if the frogs are calling and you want to do more sites, we're more than happy to assign them, but it might just take like a day or so to get those sites to you. So just something to keep in mind.
Good question, though.
Great question.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah, we love to see that.
Will this presentation be on your website? Yeah, so we will be recording this presentation and our training webinars as well, and they will all be posted on our Facebook page, on the Blazing Star Environmental Facebook page for you to watch at your leisure. So those will be made available. I don't think they'll be directly on the website.
They actually will.
Okay, they will.
Yeah, just because we want the website to really be the central hub for volunteers. So the training webinars will be on the website in the volunteer training materials section. And then this information webinar will also be on the website. There's going to be a tab that you guys can click on and it will pop up.
Perfect. Yes. Would you be able to play a recording of the Western coarse frog for all of us now for fun?
So this could be a little bit tricky because we've had an ongoing issue with playing the Western coarse frog recording, which is why we didn't, is that we, for the life of us, cannot get this recording to work. However, what we can do, and maybe Zach, I can take over answering the questions for a bit. If you want to go grab a link from our website, and just paste it in the chat, and then people can click on it and open it up and hear it. I would absolutely love to play it for you guys right now, but for the life of us, we cannot get any of our embedded audio links to work, unfortunately. But it's a great idea, and I really wish we could. But we'll post it in the chat for everyone.
I will go grab that then.
Awesome. What was the most unexpected place you found Western chorus frog last season? That's a great question, Hayden. Let me think. I think the most unexpected place that I heard them, I guess it wasn't super unexpected because it was in a roadside ditch, and they are known to use that habitat. But I was actually driving to a different site, and I had my windows down, and I heard one single chorus frog call, and I pulled over, and he didn't call for like another 5 minutes, and I thought I was going crazy. I was like, it's finally happened. I'm just hearing chorus frogs in my head now. But he did end up calling again. So there was just one solo chorus frog in a roadside ditch. So it's probably the weirdest place I've ever heard them. What about you guys? Any weird or unexpected places? Okay, so next question. Do you include data from the other citizen science programs like iNaturalist or the Provincial Natural Heritage Information Center? That is a phenomenal question. So a lot of the monitoring programs that you see in Ontario, we do a lot of sharing, data sharing between the different programs because we obviously want to support each other. But at the end of the program, we do send all of our data to the Natural Heritage Information Center so that it is available for people to use. And so that this data can be used for stewardship and conservation purposes. So we're not just holding on to this data and sort of, lording it over or lording it for ourselves. We are sending it out to the NHIC so that other conservation programs can use it as well. No problem, Ryan. So Amanda is asking, you said that this is the last year for this monitoring program. Can you hint at whether or not it might get extended or at other programs that might be in the works? Yes, so we are also very interested in continuing to work with Western chorus frog in the future. And we do have a couple ideas brewing, but nothing for sure right now. But the goal of this program is to, it is a long-term monitoring program, so we do want to run it again in the future. So the general pattern of this program is that we would do 3 years of surveying and then a 5-year break and then another 3 years of surveying. And the species gets reassessed every 10 years. So that basically reassures that there will be a new data point every 10 years so we can see if the distribution has expanded or contracted a little bit. So, and we are, like I mentioned, we are looking into working with the species in the future, but nothing solid right now. But I would highly recommend that in that 5-year break, if you guys want to still contribute to Western chorus frog conservation, you can definitely report your observations to iNaturalist. It's an absolutely great program. Maybe we can even send a link to the website as well for iNaturalist if you want to do that, Zach. Not to add another thing for you to do.
Yeah, that's fine. No, iNaturalist is a great website. I would encourage everyone to check it out. I will post a link, and I've just posted a link to a Western chorus frog call if anyone is interested in that.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach. Can I still sign up and attend the training webinar if I am volunteering through an organization that is collaborating with you on this project? Absolutely. Yeah, we would be more than happy to have you. We're always happy to encourage volunteers to train themselves and help identify Western chorus frogs. So absolutely feel free to sign up. And we look forward to seeing you on the training webinar day. So Rachel's asking, do males and females call or just males? So it's just the males. It's actually how they attract the females to the pond. That's a great question, though. It's an interesting one, too. Can Western chorus frogs be reintroduced to ideal habitats? That's a great question, and unfortunately, I don't have any specific studies in mind to really back up what I'm thinking with data, but we can look into look into it and send you an email. But generally, I think it would depend on the health of the habitat and the surrounding area as well. I know that if there is a healthy pond and there's surrounding habitat that's suitable, chorus frogs can travel between those. So theoretically, yes, they could be reintroduced. However, I don't know, how well they would do if they're being completely introduced, like if they were completely extirpated from an area and reintroduced. I think that's sort of it sort of goes on a case by case basis. But we do know that as long as there is healthy habitat, the chorus frogs can travel between those different ponds and they can sort of populate those new or created wetlands as well. However, because they are so small, they have a pretty small maximum travel distance. So the habitat does have to be fairly close together. Like it would take a very long time for them to travel from, one pond in one area to another pond, 5 kilometers away, just because that's like a really epic journey for such a little frog. And they do have a very short maximum travel distance, but that's a great question. So Zach, I think I'll answer this question and then I'll give the reins back to you. So are there other animal buddies Blazing Star needs help with? That's a great question. So right now, the Western Chorus Frog Long-Term Monitoring Program is our only official sort of volunteer program. However, we do always have volunteer opportunities popping up. So if you are interested in volunteering with Blazing Star and potentially getting involved in some of our other projects, send us an email and we'd be more than happy to add you to our general volunteer list. And if any opportunities pop up, we'll send you an email and let you know about them.
Okay. If I talk to someone about this volunteer opportunity and they would like to participate, but haven't taken part in this presentation, can they still take part? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely no problem at all. I would encourage you to have them sign up for the program. And if they would like to view this informational webinar to get some more information, like I said before, it'll be posted on the website and our Facebook page, so they still will have access to the information. But we are super excited about getting new volunteers and always looking for new people. So absolutely. In response to Regina's question, if you're volunteering with Kawartha Land Trust, then yes, definitely attend the training session. They do a great job with the training and getting you set and excited to survey. Oh, great. Okay, good.
Hayden, you're making us blush over here. All these compliments.
Yeah. No, thank you. Well, on the volunteer page with question about kilometers traveled, is it kilometers one way? Siobhan, I'll have you maybe clarify that.
For sure. So it's kilometers for the total day. And that's just because, some volunteers choose to do one site, but some volunteers choose to do 10. And so that gives us a good idea of, how close we need to assign those sites. So if you want to travel 50 kilometers in a day, that'll give me a good idea of, I can draw a path from all the different sites and make sure that it falls under 50 kilometers total. That's a great question, though.
Yeah, it's good to know that, so it helps, to help you for your organization and commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should mention as well, at any time, once we do send you your sites, if any of the sites, for whatever reason you can't make it to, or your travel distance has changed, absolutely feel free to send me an email and I can update the sites based on that. It's a very customizable program. So, if there's any issues at all, feel free to send us an email.
So this is a cool question. Are Western chorus frogs territorial? Do males try to keep other males out? So this is where I think Siobhan and I get really excited, kind of getting into some of the ecology. So like most frogs, yes, they definitely are territorial, kind of at a smaller scale. So males will definitely do their best to defend smaller patches of breeding habitat where they're calling from, to try and keep males away from basically mating with other females in the area. So yes, they are territorial, but but really typically only for shorter periods of the breeding
Mhm,
season.
mhm. And something interesting about that as well is that they are thought to have a territorial call, which is different than their typical fingers running down the teeth of a comb call. And we'll go into this more during the training webinar when we're training you guys to recognize the different frog call species. But they do have a trill that they use that is thought to that is thought they use when they are warning other males to sort of back off a bit. So that's really, really interesting as well.
Yeah, super cool stuff. So the last two comments that I'm seeing here, like I guess three, are just sort of pumping our tires. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Danielle and Hayden, for
yeah. We're
yeah,
so happy. We're so happy that you guys are enjoying the webinar and excited about getting to survey the frogs this spring. You know, we really enjoy the program, and we're really just hoping to provide a really educational and fun experience for you guys too. Sorry, Zach, I cut you off there. You can.
no, that's essentially what I was going to say. So yeah, thank you guys a lot. Looking forward to getting started. Yep, we are too. And like we've been saying, it's going to really come up quickly. So yeah, it's very exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please, if anyone else, please feel free to post questions in the chat if you have anything else you'd like us to answer.
Oh, thank you guys for coming.
Okay, good question here. If I want to change my kilometer availability now after hearing the clarification, what email should I contact? Siobhan, I don't know what you would think. I would say the info account is probably fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so I strongly encourage volunteers if you have any questions about, site selections, about anything, until the frogs start calling, I would definitely email the info@blazingstar.ca account, and that's because it's an account that multiple people at our company have access to, so it is constantly being monitored. And occasionally Zach and I will have a day off or a little bit of vacation. So our personal accounts are monitored a lot, but if we're off for the day and it is a time sensitive question, then if it's sent to the info account, then it definitely will be seen and it will be answered right away. And I see that Zach pasted the info into the info email into the chat. So thank you, Zach.
Yes, no problem. And for any other general questions as well, feel free.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I mentioned, it's the email that multiple people have access to, so it is constantly being monitored. So it is a surefire way to reach someone at Blazing Star. Awesome. Well, I guess we'll say it's the last call for questions. But I wanted to thank everyone who came out, and I really hope you guys are excited about the program. And yeah, feel free to send us an email if you have any questions. And hopefully everyone is really excited for spring. I know I am. I've started dreaming about hearing Western chorus frogs, so the frog call season is coming up when that starts happening.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And hopefully we'll see you in one of our training webinars in the next few weeks. We're really looking forward to working with you this spring. Yes, we are too, for sure. Too. Not too far now.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. All right. Well, I think with that, maybe we'll end a little bit early today. We're pretty much right on time. And again, if you guys have any questions that weren't answered during this question period, or if you think of any questions after this ends, feel free to send us an email. We'll be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day.
Yes, Hayden, I agree.
Oh, Ryan, I see you have your hand up there. Oh, question or accident? Oh, just a thank you. Oh, well, thank you. Awesome. All right, well, we'll let everyone get going and we'll see you all at the training webinar, hopefully.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone.
All right, bye, guys.